Welcome to the Swish List Podcast, where we talk all things basketball. Hosted by two brothers, Moses and Roman. Let's get into it. This might be a short one. We may not have the topics that we normally do, but I'm excited nonetheless. Episode 7. Welcome in. I'm Moses. He's Roman. This is the Swish List Podcast. We normally start with some NBA news. Let's run through what's happening in the league. And speaking of run through, we got to start with Zion Williamson because it seems like he may be going about his recovery in an unprecedented way to get back onto the court.
Yes, very interesting scenario. I don't think he's ruined his game, but he's definitely ruined his reputation for at least the next couple years.
Hey, man, you know what? What's crazy is we're now looking at that draft. Zion Williamson, John Morant, RJ Barrett. Good night. RJ, please, for NBA fans everywhere, do not do something stupid. Please, for the sake of your draft. In the same way that John needs better people around him, he might need a helping hand. Somebody to just be like, hey, man, maybe not a good idea to be using Snapchat thinking these messages are going to go away because they don't. Screenshots exist. How come this man keeps getting exposed on Snapchat? Did he not learn in college?
I think this is the first example of what the future is going to look like. We're going to see a lot of these young stars who have either had things in their past or don't realize the effects of social media and how it gets tracked. I think this is one of the many future examples of somebody not realizing how popular they are or could be in the future and the possibility of getting exposed. That man needs some type of clause in his contract against Snapchat. He needs something because the stuff that he has had when it comes to Snapchat in the past few years has been bad, reputation ruining.
Look, man, LeBron James gave everybody the blueprint. Okay. And I'm not saying that LeBron James, there have been rumors that he's had some DMs on occasion. There have been some rumors out there that exist. But you know what some of these other guys are really good at? They're good at having people sign NDAs. That is a non-disclosure agreement. Zion would do well to learn what that is. He would do really well to learn what a non-disclosure agreement is before he engages in any type of entanglement with certain entertainers.
You went entanglement. I like it. It's true. I mean, the moment he announced that he had a kid coming, it was like, hey, by the way, it doesn't matter that he's having a kid because he's got somebody else.
It's a disaster.
Perfect
dude.
timing. Yeah.
It's a disaster. Man. So here's the thing, right? In sports, at the end of the day, what matters the most is winning. There's a lot of bad guys that still get contracts, but you got to win. So this next season might be the biggest in Zion's career because he hasn't been available and now he's got off the court issues. If you want that stuff to really go away, you got to deliver on the basketball court. Delivering on the court, normally people will give you some grace for maybe some poor decisions off the court. And this isn't just like Zion didn't break any laws, right? He might have broken moral code, but if he wants to repair his image at this point, hey, man, you got to deliver on the basketball court. The people who I feel the worst for is Starry, that new drink, right? That lemon lime drink that just had those commercials launched with Zion in them. And then this happens. Now you have that associated with your new brand. Ooh, big L for Starry. Feel bad for those guys.
That's bad.
You know, there was somebody that works for Starry. Their job was to look into Zion Williamson and make sure there was no bad stuff that was going to come up. That person got fired because of this. Poor guy. Hopefully he can bounce back. I don't know who you are out there, but we support you on the Swish List Podcast. We don't have a job for you, but we support you.
I like what you said about delivering on the basketball court. It makes me think of the Kobe Shaq situation in the early 2000s. They had their disagreements, but when it came to performing on the court, they knew what they were doing. They may have hated each other off the court sometimes, but they delivered on the court. So it kind of lightened up on the controversy that they were going through at that time.
Let's look at a lot of these star players, right? Kobe had some off the court issues. Regardless of how those trials or settlements landed, a lot of that stuff doesn't matter to fans because he won. Michael Jordan, it's no secret the gambling issues that he had, and we forgive a lot of that because he won. Wilt Chamberlain got around, Magic Johnson got around, but we don't knock Magic Johnson because he's a winner. When you're a winner in sports, It's almost like we will forgive you if you deliver championships. That's what it feels like. Fans will forgive you if you can deliver championships. So, Zion, you got to deliver. You got to figure out a way to
You
get the
got to
job
make
done.
people happy.
In other NBA news, and Mike Malone, I'm sorry. I know we're not talking about your Nuggets yet, but it's okay. We'll get there. Chris Paul, there was a report that he was cut. Frank Vogel comes out and he says that was not a correct report. He's not actually officially cut. Let's add some clarity to anybody who listened to that report. With a new CBA coming in, and with how much money Chris Paul's going to make, there's a clause in his contract where they're actually able to cut him to save about $16 million, and they can still bring him back and he can play for the team. So what's happening right now is they're figuring out what role he's going to be in, if it's a good fit with Phoenix, how they're going to work everything out. You got to keep in mind this is new ownership. It's a brand new coach. This may not be what Chris Paul wants given what they're looking for from him moving forward, but the Chris Paul situation is interesting. In your opinion, Roman, what do you think is best for Chris Paul? Staying with the Suns or potentially reuniting with the Clippers, maybe going to the Lakers, another team?
I like Chris Paul staying. I feel like we see this a lot with teams that it takes a while to work out some kinks. Chris Paul is still one of the best facilitators in the league. We know that he may be getting old, but the man knows how to distribute the ball. I think they got to get rid of DeAndre Ayton. I don't like that situation. We saw it in the series versus the Nuggets. It wasn't working out. So if you're going to go in a new direction, you got to get rid of him if you're going to get rid of Chris Paul. But Chris Paul, like I said, is still one of the best facilitators in the league, and he's played for them, and they went to the finals. So if I'm the coach of that team, I like Chris Paul still as my point guard.
One of the things that people aren't talking about necessarily with Phoenix, they bring in a guy like Frank Vogel because of his experience working with bigs. Roy Hibbert, Anthony Davis, and now DeAndre Ayton. He's worked with star big men, all-star big men, and he has won a championship recently. And so I believe that when they brought Frank Vogel in the interview process, they asked him, "What are you going to do with DeAndre Ayton? And what would you do if he wasn't on the team?" And he had to have a plan for both options. I agree with you. What I think is best for Phoenix is you got to move on from Ayton. On the court problems that we saw with our own two eyes this playoffs, you can't bring a guy like that back. I think that you trade him and you try and get a younger point guard, someone that if or when Chris Paul goes out in the playoffs, you've got somebody that you can trust a little bit more than campaign. Not only that, if you can get the right bigs, it's enough to get through the vast majority of the Western Conference outside of Denver potentially. But you need they need the cap space to be able to round out the roster. And I don't believe saving 16 million on a Chris Paul contract is going to be enough. I think if you can get two players for Aiton and you maybe get one player out of the cut re-sign with Chris Paul, that might be what it takes to put the Suns over the top, given they have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. So I agree with you. I like Chris Paul staying. I think him going to the Lakers is not good for the Lakers and it's not good for Chris Paul. Going back to the Clippers, you better be retiring after the season if you're going back to the Clippers because that's going to look like a farewell tour, even if it isn't. And if he goes somewhere else, he's definitely coming off the bench. If you stay in Phoenix and they're able to make it to the top and win it, he gets a lot more credit for that than going somewhere else. And now talking about Denver, they're going to win the NBA Finals. So congratulations to Denver. By the time this airs, they will probably already have won Game 5. And what happens when teams like this win championships is people want to crown the next dynasty. We're looking for the next dynasty. The last two have been wherever LeBron James is and the Warriors. And we're searching for who that next dynasty is. And we're kind of crowning people a little bit too early. You've talked about how there were a lot of conversations about how Milwaukee was a dynasty, and they have not made it back. There were conversations that Phoenix could be a dynasty with a young Devin Booker and Ayton. They did not make it back. The Boston Celtics with their young core, they should be a dynasty. And now the Denver Nuggets winning a ring, they should be the next dynasty. I'm not ready to crown the Denver Nuggets a dynasty today. They are the best team in the league this year. They're not a dynasty for me yet. Now, time will tell. You had an interesting thought on this where you were comparing other eras with what we're seeing right now. Help the people understand what you were thinking.
Yeah, I saw a statistic on NBA Finals appearances for teams, and it was the first time since the 70s that we had had 5 different consecutive winners in a row in the finals. And I think we're going through one of those periods where It doesn't matter who's on what team, if you're a super team, who the coach is, what teams are going through rebuild mode, what team is an 8 seed, what team is a 1 seed. It doesn't look like it matters, and it's not going to matter for the next few years. I don't see a super team coming out and dominating for 2, 3 years in a row. Winners are going to win, and it seems like whoever has that chemistry at that moment is going to come out on top. So it's going to take an impressive amount of players put together that is going to be like, okay, this team is winning it because, like you said, the Bucks, we were so sure for the past 3 years that these guys are at the top. These guys are the contenders. I mean, their defense with Giannis, Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez, Middleton, that lineup is stacked, but it only worked out for them for 1 year. There's so many variables that have been going into it for the past few years that you can't look at two teams and be like, I see those teams being in the finals. And frankly, it's crazy that the Warriors and the Cavs did it for 4 years straight for the time that we're in. What a way to get us through the end of the 2010s. That was unbelievable. But I don't think we see that for at least the next few years.
Roman, when we're talking about how popular the NBA was, how much runway the NBA had, that period of time in the 70s and going into the 80s, the league was in a very dangerous place.
That's true.
So where this conversation gets interesting to me is when I look at the history of basketball, Magic and Larry maintained the league. MJ saved the league. When you look at revenue and ratings, if it wasn't for Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and their dynasty battles that they had, who knows where the league is? Then MJ comes in and he elevates the league, takes it to a whole new level. He saves basketball. If we're going into an era where anybody can win a ring, where there's a lot of parity now in the NBA, plus the best players not even being from this country, it's going to be interesting to see what these television networks do in contract negotiations and what the future of this league looks like as far as viewership's concerned. Because the NFL, they're knocking on the door. They just took Christmas this past year. They had games Christmas Day. I wonder what Adam Silver thinks about stuff like this. Is this a problem that's on his radar? I don't know. It's interesting. Speaking of the Nuggets, speaking of Jokic, there's also conversations about where Jokic falls as far as his legacy. Obviously, his career is nowhere near over, and his style of play is one where I think he'll be able to play for quite a significant amount of time. Because whether he loses his athleticism or not, his game doesn't rely on athleticism. But the conversation is, where does he fall as far as all-time big men? And I've been thinking about this. He does not crack the top 5. You have to have multiple championships to enter that conversation, period. I do believe he's close to 5. And the reason why is this. To be in the top 5, you need multiple rings. To be close to 5, you have to be the best ever at something. And Jokic is the best passing big man ever. If this run hasn't proven that to you, I don't know what it's going to take. But he's the best passing big man that the game has ever seen. So that automatically puts him up there. I've got him in that Moses Malone territory. 1 championship. Moses Malone, the best offensive rebounder we've ever seen. Jokic, the best passer, incredible runs. Now, if he can do it again, he takes that next step. But right now, he's not in my top 5, but he's closer to 5 than 10.
I like the way you put that. You got to do some crazy things to break that top 5, and probably another MVP, or if he wins this championship, a second championship would put him up there. But yeah, that Moses Malone territory, I like him in that. I put him above Patrick Ewing at this point. Definitely in that 5 to 10 range right now.
Zooming out from Jokic and looking more at the Denver Nuggets, what a great team. The way that Jokic carries himself, honestly, it just feels like there's not a lot of drama coming from that locker room. And I love that from this team, man. Golden State, there was a lot of drama through their runs. Any LeBron team, there's always drama. But this team, it feels like there's just no drama. They've got a great coach that they've bought into. We're not overvaluing Mike Malone like maybe we would like a Greg Popovich. You've got your star player in Jokic. You've got a fantastic number 2 in Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray, I don't believe is a number 1 option. I don't think he's a number 1 player. He reminds me of a guy like Pau Gasol for those Lakers runs, where Pau was essential to the Lakers winning a ring, but he wasn't necessarily the number 1 guy or a number 1 guy. Kobe was that guy. Jokic is clearly number 1, and Jamal is also essential to the Nuggets winning a ring. But then you look at the rest of the roster, right? They've got fantastic defenders at the forward and guard position with KCP and Aaron Gordon. Championship pedigree with KCP as well. He's got a ring recently. And then they've got electrifying offense and defense and Bruce Brown off the bench. They've got a young guy that's willing to run in the other Brown off the bench. Jeff Green brings veteran leadership. He's been around the game, he's been around the league. It feels like this roster checks every single box for what you would want if you were a GM trying to put together a star franchise. Now, does it equal dynasty? Not yet, but that doesn't take anything away from this team and this run and how incredible of a composition of a roster we're seeing right now.
It's nice to talk about it now, but props to the Nuggets fans who have been saying this for the whole season now that these Nuggets can do it. Like you said, they check all of those boxes, and it seems that we're just realizing it. So you got to show your respect to those diehard Nuggets fans. And I don't like it when people say this finals is boring. I hate it when people say that kind of stuff because what you said about drama, it makes me think of that. People, they'll never admit it, but they like that kind of stuff. And when you see two teams who go out there and just fight and compete and love the game of basketball and there's no off-court drama between teammates or anything like that, it's sort of boring for some people. And I think it's kind of taking away from what we're really watching here. And it's just two great teams competing. In the past few years, we've seen some teams that have dealt with players not competing very well when they get to the finals and stuff like that. But I'm really enjoying this finals because we see two teams who have been building for years, who have that chemistry and are just out there competing for a championship.
I didn't even mention Michael Porter Jr. and the size that that roster has and the versatility, the ability to shoot the three ball mid range, inside out, the way that Jokic can play in the post, high post, and from the 3 point line, can orchestrate the offense from all three levels is an absolute game breaker as well. Very difficult to defend a team like Denver. Shout out to the Denver Nuggets fans. You guys were right. You were on to something. Incredible run by the Denver Nuggets. I want to actually talk about the Heat. This is a conversation I don't know if people are ready to hear. Yes, the Miami Heat have gone on arguably the most incredible underdog run in the history of basketball. They are not going to win a championship, but the run has been incredible. Jimmy Butler has cemented himself as an all-time playoff performer. But what nobody's talking about is that somehow the Heat have found a way to injure the best player on the opposing team in every single round of the playoffs. And most of them have been ankle injuries. So Kevin Love takes that charge on Giannis, hurts his back. They beat Milwaukee. In the next series, Julius Randle, ankle injury. Jalen Brunson, ankle injury. Boston, game 7, Jason Tatum, first play, ankle injury. Game 4, Jokic in the paint, ankle injury. I'm not going to say that the Miami Heat are playing dirty.
Yeah, please
But
don't say that.
I'm not saying that the Miami Heat are dirty players. I'm not accusing them of anything. But what I am pointing out is that this run has been on the back of a series of ankle injuries to literally the best player in every single series. Have you noticed that at all?
I hadn't really thought about it like that. When I think of any playoff run, you can attest they're making it to the finals or winning a championship to some injuries that were suffered in series before or throughout the playoff run. With a team like Miami, they are a very physical team. They undercut people. We know that. I think with a physical team like this, you're bound to have some injuries happen. So for them, it's definitely gone in their favor. But like I said, I saw this video talking about how every single time Steph Curry has won a championship, it's come from somebody getting injured, Kawhi's ankle, Chris Paul getting hurt.
Kyrie
Those were
and
just
Kevin Love on that first
Kyrie and
ring.
Kevin Love. Yes,
Yeah.
injuries happen in the playoffs. And I don't want to say the Heat have been fortunate enough to see those injuries happen to other teams, but that's exactly what it is they've been fortunate enough to have some injuries happen that may or may not have changed the series. But I think this can just attest to them being a physical team.
If I'm the NBA, I'm probably watching their series again just to identify what it was that actually caused a lot of these injuries. Talking about the Nuggets again, we've seen historically the league change based on key players. You look at the Boston Celtics building a super team to stop LeBron James, and then LeBron James creating super teams, and then a history of super teams being built. You saw Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors change basketball with the way that they shoot threes. And now every player needs to be able to shoot threes. And the composition of rosters being conducive to a lot of 3 point shooting and smaller lineups. When Shaq played, you literally had to have big men just to foul him. You needed meatballs on your roster for when you played Shaquille O'Neal. with Jokic doing what he's doing on this run, and honestly, no one being able to come close to stopping him or even have a game plan that worked against him, do you think we'll see another shift in the NBA where teams will adjust their rosters to maybe prepare a little bit more for guys like Joel Embiid and Jokic?
We see this. Me and you have talked about that. We see the circle happen a lot in the NBA where
Mhm.
something goes in, something goes out. And I think we are going through one of those eras. We talked about defensive specialists kind of coming back in these playoffs that we've seen. And I think so. You're gonna see guys that have specific roles for teams on stopping a specific player. My prediction was that Anthony Davis is gonna be able to stop him, but Jokic destroyed Anthony Davis. Absolutely destroyed him. A defensive specialist for a big man is what is going to have to stop a guy like Jokic because we're going back into that era where we see bigs dominating the league. We're definitely going to need a Steven Adams or a Brook Lopez, a player like that to step up and know their role as the control of whoever the MVP is that season, I guess.
Yeah, this is the thing, man. It feels like when Joel Embiid gets to the playoffs, he's beatable. Jokic on this run, no one had an answer for him, to the point where we asked Eric Spoelstra if allowing him to score was the answer. When he goes off for 40 in a loss, no one had an answer for him the entire playoff run. Not a single team. If you're a GM going into next season and you're in the Western Conference, you have to have a strategy for this guy. And I don't know what it is.
He
But
can
what
do everything.
that's the piece that's so scary is
It's all
what
skill.
GMs are going to look for guys like Jokic. GMs are going to be looking for big men that can pass the ball a lot more. That allows them to stretch the floor a little bit better. And then also, I'm excited to see how teams prepare for a guy like Jokic next season because the tape's there. You got 3 series of footage showing what this man was able to do. So, what's your answer next year?
He's not an awful defender either. People say that like he can't defend, but I don't think Jokic is that bad of a defender. It's like, do we allow him to have his points? If he gets in the paint, it's like it's going in 3/4 of the time.
Oh, dude, he's automatic inside. And then Miami's been chasing Jamal on the pick and roll and leaving Jokic wide open for threes. Why not rotate your other forward to cover Jokic and let KCP, Aaron Gordon, or Michael Porter Jr. get that wide open look? The guys that have been missing those shots.
The switches are awful. I don't know what the Heat are trying to do. A lot of the time you see Gabe Vincent. I've seen him guard 1 through 5. And
Yeah.
I'm like, why is this happening? Why he's
Yeah.
looking around like, why am I on Jokic right now?
Where Jokic becomes a game breaker is the fact that he's a point center because Jamal is a scoring point guard. Even though he's been able to rack up a ton of assists in this finals run, shout out to Jamal Murray, he's a scoring point guard first. But like you can run the offense through Jokic, who can score from anywhere on the floor and pass anywhere in the half court. You've got big men playing against a guy in a way they're not used to because nobody else plays like this. So you're in uncharted waters. You can't even go to your default defense. You're defending in a way that you're not even used to. So let's do this. Roman, build me the perfect big man.
Joel Embiid's size, Jokic's passing ability. I'm gonna go Giannis's touch, and then Jared Jackson Jr.'s defensive ability.
Roman, that is not the best big man. Oh my gosh.
What?
Oh my gosh. You are very young.
In
Okay, let
terms
me
of
build you the best big man. No,
current
no.
players, that is
We're not
the best big man.
You could have taken any player's ability ever. So let me build
Okay.
you the best
Okay,
big
I
man
went
ever. No, no,
current.
no.
I went
Yeah,
current.
you made mistakes. Okay.
Okay.
We're going
let's
to
hear it.
take Yao Ming's size, Shaquille O'Neal's athleticism, Dwight Howard's defense, Moses Malone's rebounding, Kareem's touch, Jokic's passing. For shooting, I'll give you Karl Anthony Towns shooting. Give me Hakeem Olajuwon's post moves. And I believe I have built you the greatest big man of all time right
You
there.
definitely have. I like my current guy though. My current guy
Yeah,
is
and
great.
my player is absolutely mopping the floor with you.
He's too tall. He can't move like that. So all your other
Uh,
attributes didn't matter.
if you believe you can build a better big man than myself or my delusional brother, please let me know in the comments.
I
Okay.
told you I went current.
I didn't limit you to current. You limited yourself. You just put these limits on yourself for no reason.
Because you didn't tell me anything, so I'm just figuring let me talk current.
Yeah, see, that's just an assumption. and it cost you dearly. I
I
don't feel
feel
bad
like
for
it.
you. Now that you've embarrassed yourself when we're talking about all-time
I
bigs,
am not embarrassed.
I
The
need to give
best
you a
current big
chance.
man. Stop it.
I need to give you a chance at redemption, and that can be found here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a fun game. Would you rather two players, Bam Adebayo, or Anthony Davis?
Anthony Davis. He may be inconsistent, but his highs definitely outweigh Bam.
Bam Adebayo, Jaren Jackson Jr.
Jaren Jackson Jr. He's the defensive player of the year for a reason, and he can shoot the ball.
Bam Adebayo, Aaron Gordon.
That whew, there's some recency bias into this. I feel like
Mhm.
nah, I'm gonna go Aaron Gordon. He can defend the perimeter. He can get 1 through 5. His finishing ability outweighs Bam, and he's actually been able to shoot the ball this playoff. So in terms of right now, I'm taking Aaron Gordon.
Evan Mobley or Bam Adebayo.
I'm gonna take Evan Mobley. He's a bit taller. He's got the length. He's younger, and he's already been a defensive player of the year caliber player. I think he just has more upside than Bam.
Bam Adebayo, Lauri Markkanen.
Okay, that's where I gotta draw the line there. Markkanen's been great this year, but Bam has still been a big factor in this team getting to the finals. And Lauri Markkanen is great on the offensive end, but hasn't really proved anything. So Bam.
You got to be careful with good players on bad teams. Bam Adebayo, Zion Williamson.
No, I have to go Zion. Zion doesn't play, but when Zion plays, he's one of the best players in the league. There's
Your greatest ability is availability, Roman. It might be closer than you think. Bam Adebayo, Pascal Siakam.
Pascal so good. He's just been trapped for so many years.
Trapped, as if that
I
wasn't
mean,
his team.
he did win a championship with them, but like Pascal, better all around player. I'm taking Pascal.
Bam Adebayo, Domantas Sabonis.
I gotta go Bam. There's definitely recency bias in this one, but Domantas Sabonis showed that he has no right hand. If people figure out the triangle offense, the handoff offense that the Kings are trying to do, this guy is easy to stop. So definitely Bam.
Bam Adebayo, Giannis.
Are we serious?
No, we're not serious. That's
Okay,
it. That's it. That's it.
stop it. Bam
That's
out of
just,
bio.
that's disrespectful.
Shouldn't be in the same conversation. So we got Would You Rather Mikal Bridges edition.
Okay.
Mikal Bridges, Chris Middleton.
Mikal Bridges. Middleton's had injuries last couple years, and get more upside out of Bridges. Give me Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges, DeMar DeRozan.
Master of the mid range. You got to give me DeMar DeRozan here.
Mikal Bridges, Jeremy Grant.
Mikal Bridges, for sure. Jeremy Grant like disappeared. He was like everybody wanted him a couple years ago, and then he got a contract, and we haven't heard from him since. It's Mikal Bridges on that one, no question.
Mikal Bridges, Brandon Ingram.
Oh man.
That's a tough one.
Oh,
That's a tough
jeez.
one.
I'm gonna take Mikal Bridges. I like his game a lot more. I think he flows within the offense a little bit better. When you give Brandon Ingram the ball, the game slows down and you're just watching him kind of dribble and then choose to shoot a pull-up shot. So I think Mikal Bridges for what he gives me on defense and how he plays within the offense a little bit better.
Mikal Bridges, Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins is good. Wiggins is good.
Wiggins. I'm gonna go Andrew Wiggins here. More athletic, recent All-Star appearance, NBA champion, Andrew Wiggins. But I don't feel good about it.
Mikal Bridges, Zach LaVine.
I know Zach doesn't contribute to a lot of winning, but I'm taking Zach LaVine. He is prolific.
The man is good. That man is really good. Mikal Bridges, Paul George.
Paul George. Paul George. Paul George. Paul George. Paul George. Paul George.
Mikal Bridges, James Harden.
Current?
Right now.
Mikal Bridges. I mean, James is talking about going back to Houston. Come on. He can only spend more time in the club than in the practice facility.
Over
Long
James
term.
Harden.
Like today, moving forward.
Yeah.
Today, moving forward, Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges, Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler. It's
Not much that needs to be said there.
Jimmy's 56 speaks for itself. Roman, let me tell you something, man. My birthday was this past week. Got to go to the aquarium with my son and my wife. It's a lot of fun. But probably the greatest thing about my birthday, let me tell you something right now. I bought these Nike pants, okay? Sustainable materials, what have you. They may be the most comfortable pants I've ever put on. Now, in the wintertime, you would never want to wear these because you would be freezing. When I say these pants may be the most comfortable pants I've ever worn, I mean it. I really mean it.
What material is it?
They're 100% polyester.
Oh,
they
okay.
They feel so good, dude. So
Okay.
good. They're a little bit pricier.
As Nike likes to do on their pants.
Yeah, I hate that, man. They're like $75.
Yeah,
But
you give me a hoodie for $33, but then you want to give me
pants for like
$80.
yeah, or like $110 sweatpants or something. So I splurged a little bit for my birthday, $75 for these pants. I bought them in gray. I'm looking at the black ones now and I'm saying, I think I might have to have them. I might have to have them, dude. But I gotta have an answer for what I do in the wintertime. This is my problem. I only have gray sweatpants, and that feels like a miss. You know what I mean?
It definitely is, yeah. I think I got every color of sweatpants.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
I got red, I got yellow, I got blue, I got black, I got green.
you're like
I got a lot of
Mr.
tech
Tech
fleece.
Fleece. You're Mr. Tech Fleece.
I got
Yeah, you're
I
Tech
got tech
Fleece.
fleece.
I think that I'm Mr. Hoodie, but you're Mr. Tech Fleece.
Hey, I got a lot of hoodies too, come on now.
You hey, your hoodie game is serious, but don't
No,
be
no, no,
sleeping
it's
on
not
what I
serious.
got.
I bought like 10 or 11 just Nike hoodies.
Hey,
They're
don't
all the
s
same, but
yeah. You're like a box of crayons with your hoodies. I think I got you on hoodies, okay? I think I got you there. You gotta give me hoodies, but I
the
will
one that
give
you have on
you
right now,
this
I
one
love that.
clean, huh?
I have the
This
black
one
one of that one. Oh, that material, that's probably one of the best hoodies I've ever worn.
it just went on sale. If you wanna buy it, it just went on
Really?
sale. Meg bought it for me, yeah. It's on sale right now.
Well, I said I have the black one of it,
Yeah, dude, it's
but
nice,
that's
dude. With
that
no
material is
drawstring?
amazing.
No
Yeah.
drawstring? Come on now. For our podcast listeners, it is a blue Jordan hoodie, no drawstrings, clean logo. Sometimes with Jordan, like they'll make something that looks so good and then they'll put something stupid on the sleeve or something just ridiculous on the back, ruins it.
Giant flight logo right there.
Oh my
That's
gosh. Yes.
I hate when they do that.
Yes. And, like, you can't even tell from the first picture. That's the problem. That's the problem, people. You look at the first picture and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to have this. Is great." And then you swipe to, like, the 3rd photo, and it's this ugly logo on the sleeve, or they be doing too much on the back of the jersey, like, they'll put, like, 3 holes in it or something. Like, who designed this? Why did you do this?
All the time.
Like, there's that show on TV where, like, they got all the cooks and somebody's trying to sabotage the meal. Who's trying to sabotage these clothes at Jordan Brand? And
Yeah,
what's
they can't
crazy
have
is
the perfect item of clothing.
yes, and Nike gets it right, and then Jordan Brand, sometimes they just there is nobody who knows how to screw up clothes better than those guys at times. And I love
They're on a Jordan logo with 3 lines through it and a
yeah.
big underline under it or something like that on the back of the hoodie. Like, why can't you just leave it with the Jordan logo? Like, why do you gotta do that much?
Yeah, I'm switching up my style a little bit, Roman. I'm getting away from this Lululemon pants thing, this and that.
Thank
Um,
goodness. Spending way too much money on those.
buy 1 pair a year.
It's tough because sometimes I don't like having the Nike symbol on. Sometimes I feel like everything I'm wearing has a Nike symbol
Yeah,
on it. So I like to have
yeah,
something that's not Nike, especially some pants.
yeah.
Like, if I get some pants, I hope it doesn't have Nike because most of the time my shirt says Nike, my hoodie says Nike, my socks say Nike, my shoes say Nike. So if I can get one item that's not like making people think I'm like an ambassador for Nike, it's nice to have that. So if there's one item, I'd rather have my pants not be the Nike item.
I agree with that. I don't wear a lot of, like, Nike shirts. I'm not a big Nike t-shirt guy. I'll go Nike hoodies and I'll go shoes. When it comes to shirts, very rarely, if ever, am I shopping on Nike's website to buy my shirts, specifically because of that problem in particular. Is I don't want to look like I'm all Jordan, all Nike all the time. That's just not me. That's not my vibe. But normally, Roman, you are more decked out in Nike than me. But that's always been what I steer away from. I will steer away from Nike t-shirts and I'll round everything else out if the look fits. But pants and shirts normally not Nike, but hoodies, it's probably 80-20. It might be it's probably 70-30 in my closet right now, Nike versus everything else.
Another thing for me is slides. For the longest time, I had Nike slides. I was like, I have to switch this up. So I got me some Yeezy slides to represent a little bit, so I wasn't just wearing Nike on my feet all the time because that majority of the time it's Nike on the feet.
I'm waiting for the release date on those Nike column slides. I've literally worn the same slides since the summer of my junior year of high school.
Is it
Art
still those Jordan ones?
It is, it is. Do you remember what happened? Okay, so this is what happened. I had never owned slides in my life, and I was like, "This has to change." I've been playing basketball my whole life. I don't even own slides. What's wrong with me? So I go to dad and I said, "Hey, Jordan made these Jordan 5 slides. and they had red, white, and black slides that were perfect colors for the high school I went to. I said, Dad, I have to have them. Our dad's a big eBay guy. And so we look them up on eBay, and there they are. I can place a bid. And they've got them in the white with red and black, and they also have a black and gray. And Dad tells me, he goes, son, you can't just bid on one, because if you don't win, then you got nothing. So you got to place a bid on both. Now, when I tell you I had money for one pair of slides, that doesn't mean all the money I have, but I had allocated funds to buy one pair. That's all I wanted. But I listened to my father. I placed a bid on both. You want to guess what happens? I'm sitting there, the time's creeping down, right? A couple minutes. There's other people bidding, but like we're trying to maintain that number one spot. And then I look over at the black slides and nobody's bid. So I'm the top guy for both. 2 minutes to go. And I'm watching the clock tick down, knowing I'm about to buy both pairs of slides. And I look at Dad and I go, I'm not buying both of these, am I? And he's like, what do you mean? Somebody could bid. And I'm like, yeah, but if nobody bids, can I like cancel? And he's like, no, you can't cancel. Man, when I tell you I spent way too much money on slides, I end up with both pairs of slides. I still got these slides right here, man. Look at them. I still got them. Come on.
The,
Ridiculous.
the iconic slides, yes. I remember you
Ridiculous.
walking around in those and being like, those are some nice slides, but I never realized you probably overpaid for those because you only wanted one.
Paid twice as much as I wanted to because I got two pairs, only needed one.
You don't need two pairs of slides,
No,
especially if
no.
if you're looking for some slides. Only a crazy person goes out and looks for two.
Thank you.
That's not right.
Thank you.
Not right.
Our dad may be the only person that looks for every color of the slide he can possibly find that's ever been released.
He's also got to get two pairs so he can have one that's it just collects the dust so he can look at it.
Yeah, not just that. Hey, man, you remember his house shoes?
He's on to a new
And
pair.
and he had the spare for when they wore out. He could switch them out for the next pair. He
He's got
went
black ones right now, and he's got an orange pair that's his spare.
waiting in the wings. And then he bought all of us the Nike Burrow House shoes. My wife even got a pair. She got them in pink. I still got them. They're right here, actually, right next to me.
I wore mine too much, and the sole
Oh,
popped out, and there's no replacing that sole.
no.
Yeah, I
Our
was wearing them in
sister,
college, and I felt weird.
those might be a pair you leave at home. Next semester, you might leave those behind. All right. This is our last episode before the end of the NBA season, episode 7 of the Swish List podcast. Once again, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. We'll be back next week with an episode full of NBA content and maybe something that might surprise you next time. You never know with us, but we appreciate you being here. Thank you for listening. Roman, anything you want to say to listeners right now?
We appreciate y'all. Keep listening. Great things headed in the future for Swish List Podcast. Subscribe, like, comment, all the things on all the different social medias. And if you haven't done so, it's getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous.
He's right. If you haven't already, please give us a follow. We post on all major platforms. Thank you for listening here. Please comment, share this podcast with one person that needs to brush up on their NBA knowledge just a little bit. And if you got any topics that you want us to talk about next week, you can always send us a DM on any social media platform. I will see it first, and we will make sure to get it into the rotation. So please, if you have any ideas, let us know. We'll get into the rotation on the next episode. And once again, thank you so much for listening. This is it, Swish List Podcast, episode 7 on the way out. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Swish List Podcast. Catch us on social, and we'll see you next week.